Wheelchair Warriors, episode 309.
Woo.
As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by resident old bastard, Chris Saturn.
Hello.
Saturn, we have housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
And that is that Guy is present and shall be present after the ending theme of this show.
He's technically present throughout the entire show. You just can't hear him.
He's here right now, but he'll also be here later, and you'll be able to hear him, dear listener. So, you know, be there for that.
And he said he has a story to tell, and I'm excited. I don't know what it is, and I'm ready for it. So I'm just going to hype it up.
It always scares me. Yeah, it's going to be, I heard that it's the story of a generation.
Yeah.
I heard that it's amazing.
It's a story you'll tell your children and your children's children.
Yeah, so strap in, because here it comes.
It's certainly not going to be a
hour.
letdown after that. Certainly not.
He's just going to be like, I went to the dentist and I didn't have cavities. Good time.
Well, I imagine he'll start with, well, fuck you guys for building it up. And then he will tell us the story.
Anyway, yeah, do stay tuned to the end of the show. Our producer guy is going to be on the show.
Yeah.
And we love having him.
Indeed.
I've gotten my Switch back up to snuff.
You do still have a Switch, correct?
I have a Switch.
Yeah.
I continue to have a Switch. And I'm going on vacation here in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be in the car for about 30 hours.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's what I said. And I was like, well, I want my Switch to be in good shape for that, because it's not like it's been neglected. It just sits there, but it's like, you know, I was like, well, I'm gonna be playing in the car, and I want a nice controller set up, so I bought the Split Pad Pro.
Yes,
which is talked about quite a bit in our Discord. People seem to really like it.
I've talked about it here on the show.
You talk about things on the show? I
do sometimes, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I must have missed that. I really didn't remember if you had one or not.
Yes, I've had one for several months now.
So I didn't want it for the longest time because it doesn't have Rumble, and in my head I was like, no, I'm a discerning gamer. I need my Rumble. So I was like, do I really? And I turned Rumble off on my Joy-Cons, and I played with that way for like a day and a half, and I was like, oh yeah, I turned Rumble off. And I was like, all right, that I guess I don't need it.
Exactly.
I will say I like them a lot. They are leagues more comfortable than Joy-Cons.
They really are.
They are quite light. They don't make the unit too heavy, which I consider that a plus, because if they were as heavy as they looked, the whole thing would weigh 10 pounds.
Yes. And, you know, I had a controller grip for my Switch before I got the Split Pad Pro. Yeah. And it is so much more comfortable than that grip was, and it's so much easier to take on and off than that grip was.
Yeah. So my only I do like them. I love the assign button because when I play Monster Hunter, I've been playing Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, by the way. That's the game I've been playing. Yeah. But anyway, these controllers, I will reach over with my right hand to push the D-pad while I push two other buttons at the same time. And so with it split, I can't reach my D-pad with my right hand. So the assign button lets me put that to one of those little back triggers. So that's a nice feature. And my only complaint is that I wish they were even bigger. Because they're bigger than Joy-Cons by a lot, but they're still not quite as big as like a regular Pro controller. There's no real handles on them. I wish there was just a little bit more of a handle, a little bit more to grip onto, because in my mind, I'm like, it's already got gargantuan at this point. Like, just go all out. Give me some handles.
So what you're waiting for is the Split Pad Pro Plus.
Yes, Split Pad Pro Plus is what I'm waiting for.
Yeah,
with the handles. And other than that, I've been really enjoying them. I've put in, I don't know, maybe between 8 and 12 hours of Monster Hunter exclusively. Like, when I got it, I didn't put my Switch back on the dock. I was just like, nope, don't need that anymore, and I was just done with it. I also replaced my Switch's back plate. I was unfortunate enough to have one of the docks with my Switch that it kind of scratched my Switch up. And of course, before I was playing with a grip, my Switch would often be laid flat on a surface, you know, my coffee table or my nightstand or whatever. So my back was all scuffed up and just gross. And for the longest time, I also used a grip on my Switch, so I never really saw the back. And now that I'm on the split pad, I have to look at the ugly, scratched up back. So I bought a new Switch backplate, one of the Extreme Rate brand ones, and put that on. And it was real easy. It was like 8 screws. Nice. It came right off. You don't have to touch any electronics. There's no weirdness, no ribbon cables, anything like that. It just comes kind of right off the back.
Nice. Yeah, I think I somehow lucked out on my initial dock and my second dock. Yeah. Because my Switch has never really had any scuffs or issues that I have noticed anyway. And I ended up handing off my second dock to you since I stopped using it.
Yep, that's my streaming dock. I use that when I stream my Switch games. Yeah, that's my upstairs dock.
Hopefully that one continues to not scratch Switches.
I've not noticed anything, but I will say also, I use my Switch handheld mode substantially more than you, so I probably have put mine in and out of my dock many more times than you. I mean, I would put mine in and out of the dock half dozen times a day when I was playing a Switch game. You know,
that does not happen in my world.
Yeah, so it could just be that maybe the dock was just not well vetted for heavy
switching.
Yeah. But I've got about probably a dozen hours in on the Split Pad Pro, and I think I definitely recommend it. And I'm just ass deep in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. I've gotten back into it. I've been enjoying it greatly.
Good.
And I made the mistake on this. I streamed it. It was my Monday night stream game. And I in the stream, people were asking about Rise because someone was commenting like, this looks like old garbage. It looks like crap for a Switch game. And I was like, well, it's a 3DS game that they've up-res. So, you know, it has some anomalies, let's say. And I go, I have the Rise demo downloaded. Let me go try it so you can see the difference between Generations Ultimate and Rise. Because Rise is the, you know, in air quotes, new style Monster Hunter. And Generations Ultimate is kind of the celebratory send-off title that combines all of the elements of old school Monster Hunter into one big fun game with hundreds of hours of content. And then it was, so far, they've kind of been like, all right, we did it. We're done with it now. That's our capstone on the old school Monster Hunter Generations, you know.
Right.
And I played Rise, and I was like, oh, no. It's real nice. It's really nice. Because as much as I like the weird obtuseness of Monster Hunter, it's also real nice to not have it, you know. Because, like, sometimes you're in that mood. You know, Monster Hunter has always felt like kind of a janky PS2 game. It's just always played that way because that's how it started, as a janky PS2 game. And then it turned into this thing where they're like, no, that's our style. And to their credit, they stuck to it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden World came out and they were like, yeah, we're going to do it like modern. Everyone was like, oh, here's all of the money. And so Rise is the combination of kind of World and the old styles sort of smooshed together.
Nice.
And I coerced my wife into letting me call a copy of Monster Hunter Rise a vacation expense under the auspicion that I do not start playing it until we are in the van on our road trip. So I've got that like ready.
Let me ask you this. Does the progress from the demo carry over?
I don't know, because I played the demo once and I was like, oh no, it is so good, I have to stop or I will not go back to Generations Ultimate.
Well, that's why I ask, is if it does, then you could just play the demo until then.
See, that feels disingenuous. I'm also trying to squeeze out as much Generations Ultimate as I can, because I do feel like it's going to be too hard to go back to.
That's fair.
So I'm really kind of trying to like just slam a bunch of that out.
Yeah.
Which I've been doing. Also, Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis came out. The new starting from ground zero Phantasy Star game. Do what?
I thought it was an expansion to PSO2.
No, it is a totally new and separate game that you can bring your character over from, and there is some, I don't even want to say cross-play or cross-compatibility, but there are some things that go back and forth.
I assumed that it just overwrote it because in my game list on my Xbox, the old one is gone now.
Yeah, it's all one game.
Okay.
But old PSO is not going anywhere, is my understanding. And I'll explain why I don't know much in the way of details in a second. But it's a totally new game, because the whole idea was that, hey, you know, people in the West started playing PSO2 after it had like 9 years of stuff added to it.
Right.
And so while the core PSO experience of take a mission, go to the planet, kill the thing, come back, turn it in is still there, it's also laden in all of these other systems that they've added on to a relatively simple game over the years.
Right.
New Genesis is supposed to be just that, a new Genesis. Let's get back to basics and let everyone worldwide start at the same time.
That's fair.
And it's so bad. Oh, man.
Oh, no.
It is real bad.
How bad they fuck it up?
Oh, first of all of the character models look like Uncanny Valley real dolls.
Oh, no.
It's fucking weird and ugly and runs like dog shit on my Series X.
This is what happens when they got rid of Yuji Naka. They just need to get Yuji Naka back.
It's bad. And immediately I was like, this sucks real bad. And then I was like, well, let me get out of these horrible cutscenes that look terrible. And maybe the game won't be bad. Oh, no. The game is bad as well.
Oh, no.
And like literally you're just walking and every character model is white. And when you stand right next to them, the textures pop up. Like it's like straight up day one early access kind of shit.
Is it maybe just because so many people were logged in?
I didn't see anyone else.
Oh no.
So I think I was instanced because I saw no other players and I was in the new player area because I just started. And I was like, no, give me old PSO back. I'm like having my panic attack. And I'm like, where'd my stuff go? Give it back. And I can't figure out in the menus how to go back to old PS2. So I panicked and I turned it all off and I told it to fuck off. And I was done with it. So I'm going to go back and figure it out. But yeah, New Genesis is one of the worst first impressions that a game has given me in a very long time.
And you played the first version of FF14 too.
Yes, I did. I played the 1.0 14 and liked it. Thought it was good.
Oh, you were the one.
But that's about all I've been doing is getting my Switch up to snuff and strategically avoiding New Genesis at this point.
That's fair. I finished my Xbox playthrough of Dragon Quest Builders 2. Mm-hmm. I got finished up the story mode and just naturally grabbed any of the tablet targets and achievements on my way because I have played through the game 4 times at this point. So It was all pretty natural to me, and got a base and a place where I was like, I'm happy enough with this, and moved on. And then decided that I would pick up Dragon Quest 11 as my secondary game to just play when I'm not playing Yakuza, and I had not played 11S in 3D mode because I had just played the 2D on the Switch, and so I was instinctively trying to go back to habits I had from the PS4 and PC original releases. Right. And I am slowly realizing how many quality of life improvements there are in the game.
Yeah.
It's
pretty massive.
Oh, it's so nice.
It's funny because I feel like when we talked about it before, you were like, yeah, there's some new stuff. And I was like, no, there's so much new stuff. And it is, forget the old one. And you were kind of, you weren't like shitting on that. You were like, yeah, it's definitely an improvement. But I felt like you weren't quite as...
Well, I hadn't experienced it.
Yeah, you didn't quite understand the breadth of them.
Oh yeah, it is incredibly good improvements. All of them are great. They're worthwhile. I still wouldn't completely knock the old game, but it's not like anybody can play it anyway. It's been delisted everywhere.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I win, yeah.
Yeah. I also, since I was fucking around with Game Pass stuff on my computer, I noticed that if you want to install any EA Game Pass games on your computer, you have to install EA Desktop.
Oh, is it not Origin anymore?
No, Origin's dead now. Well, Origin is still there. EA Desktop is the new version that supports Game Pass.
God damn it.
But it doesn't yet support all Origin games. So they still have Origin there in case you bought an older game that isn't yet in EA Desktop, so you can downgrade. But for Game Pass stuff, you have to use EA Desktop. And I was looking through it, and it does have some stuff that is not by EA in there as well, that is considered EA Play and therefore free with Game Pass. But after looking through all of it, there was nothing that I cared enough to keep EA Desktop installed for.
Yeah.
So that died pretty quick, and it is one of those programs that when you uninstall it, it immediately wants to restart your computer for some reason.
Oh my God.
Which really
like
begs
1998.
Right? It begs the question, exactly what was EA Desktop doing on my computer that it feels the need to restart as part of its uninstall?
Hey, you got to reboot when you remove rootkits, so probably should restart.
Yeah. Thanks, EA.
I have a Razer mouse, which I love the mouse. Very comfortable mouse. Love it. It comes with the biggest piece of shit software that you must install to use any features on the mouse. And it updates constantly and always wants to restart my computer. Right. And I'm like, you can fuck off. You just make my mouse turn green.
Right.
Like, get out of here.
Ugh.
Let's do some news.
Yes, sir.
First, a quick note. We are recording these episodes just before E3. E3 starts Monday? Monday?
I think some of the pre-show stuff starts tomorrow.
Oh my God, I'm not ready.
Right.
Every year I'm like, it's too soon. Wait. We're recording right before E3. This is the Friday before E3.
Right.
So there's probably going to be a ton of news announced, like literally right now while we're recording and tomorrow. So,
and there was also like that weird Summer Games Fest stream, whatever it was yesterday. Yes. So they're already kind of kicking off some announcements and news kind of things. So it is that season, but we're missing a lot of it. So, it'll happen.
So just throwing it out there. Yeah. First up, Sierra founders Ken and Roberta Williams are working on a new game.
Yes.
The whole project sounds kind of more like a personal project than the beginning of any sort of like Sierra revival. Right. I think in the article they said they're, quote, happily retired.
Yeah, and I don't think Activision would allow them involvement with Sierra anyway.
Well, no, because they'd probably bring in heart and nuance.
Yeah, and Activision doesn't want
deal
that.
on those things. Yeah. They've condensed that all down into Vicarious Visions, so they can just keep it there safe away from the rest of Activision.
Right. They don't want it to taint anything.
A prototype of Cubivore's original N64 version was uncovered and appears to be complete and functional.
That's really neat.
This was in someone's storage locker for apparently a very long time, and they just thought it was broken. Turns out it was a bad trace. They fixed one bad trace, and all of a sudden, full working version of N64. I think it was a DD game.
That's what I believe.
Nice. Or whatever it was called before it was Cubivore.
In Japan it has a different name, and I've completely forgotten what it is now.
Nintendo has won their $2.1 million lawsuit against ROM site ROM Universe, a site which sold premium accounts to obtain, quote, unlimited downloads.
Yeah.
So just pro tip for anyone that's hosting ROMs out there. 1, they're coming for you.
Yes.
2, if you're taking money, they're going to sue you while they're at it.
Right.
That seems to be pretty, like Nintendo shuts down a lot of ROM sites, but the only ones they sue seem to be the ones that are making any kind of money.
Exactly.
I obviously don't take that as legal advice.
Right.
But
But the fact that this guy tried to defend himself, and didn't he like countersue Nintendo when they tried to shut him down or something?
The whole thing was just a bad idea on his part. Yeah.
All of it looks very bad on his side.
Twin Galaxies, plural. There's more than one because it's twin. Twin Galaxies now allows high score submissions from arcade 1-up machines, which have been added as separate leaderboards. You can also submit scores via stream now. So they seem to be finally getting with the times after so many years of basically just having to mail them a VHS tape.
Right.
Billy Mitchell style. That finally you can they're
totally not doctored VHS tapes.
Yeah. So that's cool. And I as much as the machines aren't for me due to space constraints.
Right.
I love that the arcade 1-up machines kind of have their own scene.
Yeah.
And I like that the larger gaming space seems to be taking notice of that. That's wonderful. Dark Horse Comics to begin developing games. Which, cool. Maybe we'll get a Hellboy game.
That was one of the properties they mentioned in their announcement. So
yeah, I'd be excited.
But they said that some may be developed internally and some will be licensed out to others. I don't know where they're getting this internal development team or if they're just assembling it from scratch. So who knows what will come from this? But it could be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers, the movie The Morton Jankel Cut, has been released. It includes 20 minutes of additional scenes as well as prologue that uses footage from The Lost World to approximate what they believe the original script's intent had for the prologue. So if you want to watch Super Mario Brothers, the movie, for 20 additional minutes...
I don't.
...over its original runtime, and all of the footage is taken from VHS as well to keep everything consistent. So if you want to watch a 20-minute longer VHS cut of Super Mario Brothers the movie, then you know what? You got that option. It's on archive.org. Just go find, no piracy required. Just go fire it up. The Atari VCS allegedly launches this month. It is $299.99 with no controller.
Good.
$399.99 with a wireless joystick and standard wireless controller. It is an AMD machine running 8 gigabytes of RAM.
Yep.
You can buy it at Best Buy if you want.
Did they say what Linux build it's running, or is it a custom Linux build?
I believe they said that it's Linux compatible. I don't know that it's technically running Linux, or if they just don't want to call what it's running Linux because it is, but they've built their own, UI on top of it. I don't know. I can't figure out how this is a better deal than just buying like one of those little Intel Nooks or the AMD mini machines. Yeah. It's literally one of those with some wood veneer. And they sell wood veneer on Amazon. You can wood veneer anything. People, I don't know if you know that. It just sticks on. You stick it on your computer, your dog, your car, wood veneer all around.
So I noticed that no matter how many hype emails Atari has sent over the last couple of years now.
So many from Atari.
I did not get a hype email about the launch.
Weird. You think maybe it's going to be real limited?
I'm wondering if they're just trying to quietly brush it away.
Okay. So just release it Ouya style. Here's the thing for the people that wanted it. All right, goodbye. We're sunsetting this project.
That's my theory.
I could see that. I think maybe it could be one of those things where they've just invested too much and they're like, look, we can't just cut it fucking loose.
Right.
We got to make a buck on it. We got to sell these units we've produced.
Right.
But even looking at the specs for $300, it already seems dated.
Right.
They're not wonderful.
No.
They'll play Atari games, but I mean, my toaster will play Atari games.
Right.
So, hell, these days toasters will play Super Nintendo games.
I've got a watch that'll play Atari games.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Previous Oculus exclusive Puzzle Bobble 3D Vacation Odyssey will launch for PS4, 5, and VR this year.
I'm excited for that. I'm always up for more Puzzle Bobble.
I didn't know that there was Puzzle Bobble on Oculus. Now I want to go get it on my Oculus.
I think we talked about it in the news like a few months ago.
I guess I must have just totally ignored everything you said that day.
Well, you said it because it's in the news.
Everything I said that day.
That is possible.
Yuji Naka leaves Square Enix, with most news sources implying that it was due to Balan Wonderland's poor reception. But obviously, literally nothing confirms that whatsoever.
Well, I mean, it's basically confirmed because before the game came out, he had stated outright that the management at Square Enix told him, "This is your only chance. If this does not succeed, we do not know if you have a future."
All right. So with some small proof,
right?
But obviously he can't talk about why.
Right.
I mean, he had to sign an agreement. He said he is considering retirement.
Yes, which is sad because they could apparently use him on the PSO2 team right now.
Yeah, please go fix New Genesis. At the very least, fix those character models. Oh my God. Taito Egret 2 Mini announced.
I love this thing. I am very excited
mini arcade
about
machine. Physically looks a lot like the Sega Astro City cabinet. It costs $170 for the cabinet, $110 for the expansion controller bundle, which we'll talk about, and $80 for the arcade stick, $30 for the gamepad. That's all around in line with Astro City Mini.
Yeah, but it's still
prices.
It's more than I can justify.
Oh, it's a lot of money. It's like PS5
really
level money if you want to go all in on this thing.
Yeah.
It features a rotatable screen.
That's the most exciting part. You
which
can
is so cool.
Swap it into taint mode. And
current confirmed titles are Space Invaders, Lunar Rescue, Kicks, Elevator Action, Chack and Pop, Bubble Bobble, Rostan Saga, Rainbow Islands Extra, New Zealand Story, Don Doko Don Violence Fight, which is the best name, Kadash, Liquid Kids, Metal Black, and Kaiser Knuckle.
I am so stoked for New Zealand Story. I am confused why they would have Rainbow Islands Extra and not regular Rainbow Islands.
Well, they just want to give you a little bit extra.
But the extra version's harder.
Well, get over it, you baby gamer.
Just let me play my Rainbow game.
Also, the controller bundle is they've got the regular gamepad and the arcade stick, just like the Astro City had.
Right.
But they also have a controller expansion pad, which is a controller with a trackball and a knob.
Which is really exciting.
For $110, it comes with an SD card and 10 games. Additional, so far confirmed games on the expansion pack are Strike Bowling, Arkanoid, Plump Pop, Civilian, Camel Tree, and Arkanoid Returns.
Yeah, I love Arkanoid.
I'm nuts for Arkanoid. Right? I've been playing it on the Wii. I've been playing the WiiWare version of Arkanoid.
That's a good game too.
Yeah.
No, if they could somehow squeeze just super kicks in there is enough that I would probably buy the unit. If they can also squeeze in like Bubble Symphony and Bubble Memories, I'm 100%
in. But you're looking at like about $300 shipped from Amazon Japan for the expansion controller and just the little mini cabinet.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Granted, these aren't all the titles announced, so who knows? And also the Sega Astro City went on sale on Amazon at a pretty hefty discount, not too incredibly long after.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely waiting to see if it goes on sale. I'm not going to pre-order it.
If it reaches like $200 or under for the system and the expansion controller bundle, I'm in totally. Yeah. But for $300, I'm gonna wait on it.
The rotating screen is really neat though. I have to give them credit for that.
Oh yeah, what a great idea,
right?
Ultra Street Fighter 2 has been removed from the eShop and then relisted on June 11th.
Yeah, that's
no one knows
weird.
Why.
There's got to be some rights thing.
It has to be.
Yeah, maybe the artist that did the HD remix of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, maybe they forgot to pay him or something.
Maybe it's less upsetting that these things happen because I understand how rights work. I get it. It's a digital platform. You have to maintain the rights to keep it listed for the entire length of time.
Right.
Which is dumb, but I understand that. What's frustrating is companies don't go, hey, we got to delist this for a little while, or every now and then we'll get people going, hey, this is going to be delisted if you want to buy it. Which I feel that happened with the DuckTales remaster.
Yeah, also Danganronpa when it was being removed from Vita.
But a lot of times they just go away and then come back, and we're like, that's scary. Why did that happen? And they're like, no, don't
worry about it. It's taken care of now. Bye. DuckTales is back, by the way. You can buy that one again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can actually buy it to play on Xbox Series X.
Oh, excellent. Well, there you go. Someone has made a Game Boy emulator using only 68 lines of C++ code. You guys, I've written introductory C++ programs that are way more than 68 lines that do almost nothing. Now, granted, it only plays Pokemon Blue. Not Red, not any other game, not Mario Land.
No.
But it's 68 lines of C and it runs Pokemon Blue. That's incredibly impressive.
Pretty impressive, yeah.
That's just, I remember I wrote like a calculator in C and it was like 300 lines.
Yeah, I remember in high school writing just a program that lets you change the color of text on the screen, and it had to have been in the hundreds of lines of code.
I suspect my code was not the most efficient.
Yeah,
but I'll
a chance
never
that's the case.
Let's jump into the topic at hand. This week we're talking Mega Man Powered Up. Which is basically Muppet Babies, but it's Mega Man instead of Muppets.
Okay.
It's Mega Man Babies. I knew that would upset you. You'd immediately be upset. It was released in Japan on March 2nd, 2006 as Rockman,
which is the dumbest name ever.
It is.
I
wish they had kept it.
Right?
I just called it Mega Man.
That would have been great.
North America is March 14th, 2006. European territories March 24th, 2006. As far as first encounters with Mega Man Powered Up, I did play this when it was current in 2006. I got it on my PSP, and I just didn't love it. I was like, it's okay, but it came after Maverick Hunter X, and it felt just a little too simple. It had some cool ideas. It was cute, but it just didn't hold my interest. So I pretty quickly moved along past Powered Up.
I had the opposite experience. I picked up Maverick Hunter X and Powered Up at the same time, and I tried Maverick Hunter X first because I was like, oh, it's Mega Man X. I love Mega Man X.
Right.
And I played it for a little bit, and I put it down and I put Powered Up in there. and played through all of Powered Up. Like I could not put it down until I was done with it. It is exactly what I wanted in a Mega Man remake at that point in time.
So you wanted Muppet Babies. Tell me about the development of Mega Man Powered Up.
Yeah. So it was produced by a longtime Mega Man series animator, Kaiji Inafune.
I like that you list him as the animator.
Well, that's what he originally was.
I know, but everyone always wants to be like the father and creator of all things Mega Man.
Yeah.
Which he's a wonderful guy.
Right.
He has made major contributions to the Mega Man franchise, but it's I just found it interesting that you were like animator.
Right, because they all like to give him like huge props and act like he is the keystone of the franchise. And I think Mighty Number 9 taught us all that that's not the case.
Mighty Number 9 taught us a lot of things about crowdfunding and video games, and it taught us. We learned a lot of lessons on that one.
If Mighty Number 9 didn't teach us that Inafune wasn't the secret ingredient of Mega Man 11 certainly did, because he wasn't involved there.
Yeah.
But he was the longtime series animator, and he did produce several games in the series, especially during this era. He was basically the series producer. And they had announced the game to be demoed at 2005 TGS. Inafune had said he had originally planned on using the chibi super deformed art style in the original Mega Man, but couldn't pull it off due to the way that image processing worked on the NES. He couldn't make it look the way he wanted to on the NES with the NES's color and palette limitations and lines per or pixels per line and all that.
Well, Mighty Final Fight did it. What's his excuse?
I believe he was also the art director on Mighty Final Fight.
Was he?
I believe so.
Oh, that kind of makes it worse.
Well, Mighty Final Fight
figured it out by then because it was later.
Yeah, that was 6 years later.
Yeah, so maybe he got it.
So there was a bit of a time gap between Mega Man and Mighty Final Fight.
Yeah.
There was also that SD Spider House game in between. So somebody else figured it out first. Yeah.
Also, I'd say Kid Dracula. That was on NES. That was pretty.
Well, that was also a later NES game too, though. I want to say that was 91 or 92.
Yeah, it was pretty late.
Anyway, I found an interview with the producer Tetsuya Kitabashi. He said the new character models were designed specifically around the 16:9 screen of the PSP. And that having the larger heads allowed for more obvious facial expressions, but also he just kind of wanted the characters to all look like children's toys, which that's a weird design choice, but I think it worked in the game. And famously at the time anyway, I don't know if it's still a famous bit now, but one of the new Robot Masters, Oil Man, had his color scheme changed for international releases because in Japan he looked like an offensive stereotype.
Yeah, so it's good that they caught that.
Yes,
because they don't always when things are imported.
Right.
So appreciative of that localization change.
Yes, that's good.
Let's talk presentation.
Yes.
It's so you've got the chibi, the super deformed graphics,
right?
And it looks good.
Yeah.
Assuming you like the art style.
Right. And it was a very early, well, not very, but a fairly early PSP game.
It was the first
in the first year or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks decent, especially when a lot of things on early PSP were trying to do the whole like, hey, it's basically a portable PS2, but not quite powerful enough to do PS2 stuff, so it kind of looks like shit. Sorry.
Yeah, it kind of looks muddy all the time.
So it was a nice change of pace from that.
It was bright. It's colorful. Everything is very clear and easy to distinguish, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I do like the soundtrack a lot. It's fully remixed. Mm-hmm. I believe they have the original in it still.
Yes.
But I only played the new levels.
Right.
And my favorite is probably the Elecman remix here.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite tracks in the original to begin with.
True. Which I believe is famously a Journey song that they just kind of ripped off.
It also kind of sounds like the theme to the old Disney Channel show Kids Incorporated.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it was an 80s show. You might have been too young for
it. I was a baby.
This was back before the Disney Channel was a premium channel when it just came on free cable.
Yeah.
Or sorry, vice versa. This was back when the Disney Channel was still a premium channel and did not come on free cable. And yeah, Kids Incorporated was a children's dancing show.
That's weird.
It was weird. And yeah, the theme song sounds a lot like the Elect Man theme. It's weird.
I like that one. That's the one I listened to while working on notes for a different show.
Nice.
But they're enjoyable remixes.
Yeah.
They lose a little bit of that kind of rock and roll attitude.
Right.
The original.
Yeah, they kind of have a carnival feel now.
I think it's one of those things where when you're doing a remaster of a soundtrack like Mega Man 1, there's only so much you can do, especially with this art style. Like you either go like full heavy metal or you kind of cute it up a little bit, and I think sometimes when you're adding definition to 8-bit music, it just starts to sound different because you're filling in gaps that we kind of filled in our heads.
Exactly.
So all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't know that I like how this sounds. When I listened to it originally, I imagined that an orchestrated version would be like this.
Right.
And then now here it is, and you're like, oh, I don't know about that.
It is a little strange though, because so many orchestrations of 8-bit music that you hear in other remixed games or remastered games either go with that hard rock style, like you mentioned, or they go with full symphony orchestra. And this is going with more of a like Playhouse feel, which fits the graphics, like you said.
Oh yeah.
But it does seem strange based on years of Mega Man, and the other Mega Man games have kind of gone with that hard rock feel more often than not.
And it does kind of seem like Mega Man. I mean, Mega Man on NES, like they wanted it. I mean, the whole thing is named after like rock themes.
Right, exactly.
They very obviously wanted it to be that kind of like cool, rock, edgy sort of thing. It just looks like a cute little goofy game because that's what everything looked like on the NES,
right. Even this version, the name is Rockman. That should be double rock.
So, they should have one of those two-necked guitars, so you can rock twice as hard.
Right?
You don't like the voice acting in this.
Oh my god, it's so bad. Oh, it is so painful.
I think it's fine.
Like some of the lines are funny and they are delivered in a way that is funny, but god,
Mega Man, I'm gonna stop you.
It's really cringy voice acting, but it's still nowhere near as bad as Mega Man 8 on PS1 and Saturn. That I definitively has the worst voice acting, but on that one, it's so bad that it's hilarious. On this one, it's just kind of bad.
I think the voice acting worked for me only because of how they cuted the game up.
Right.
It just makes it look like a bad Saturday morning budget cartoon.
Well, see, we've had a bad Saturday morning Mega Man cartoon in the past.
Yes.
And it didn't sound that goofy and weird.
No, but again, like if they took that cartoon and they said, let's Muppet Babies it, I could see it landing here. I could see this being what we end up with. Right. If they're like, hey, we like the Mega Man cartoon, but can you do more Tiny Toons Adventures style thing with it? Like, I feel like we'd still end up here where it landed,
Right.
Tell me about the riveting and deep story of Mega Man Powered Up.
So it's Mega Man 1's story, but we'll go through it in brief. So Dr. Light and Dr. Wily used to work together on making robots and stuff, but then they split up at some point, and Dr. Wright went on to later create human-like robots that he named Rock and Roll, and then he also created 8 industrial use robots. It used to be 6, now it's 8. Mm-hmm. And for this, Dr. Wright received the Nobel Prize for Physics. I don't remember that from the original game, but apparently he's a Nobel Prize winner now.
It's weird that they put that in there,
right? I think that's I think that's actually a protected name too. I think they were supposed to have licensed that. And apparently Dr. Wily became jealous that Dr. Wright has his Nobel Prize, and Dr. Wily wasn't recognized for his contributions. So he revives a former robot prototype of Dr. Wright's and dubs it Proto Man, and sends Proto Man out to reprogram the 8 industrial robots and turn them against humanity so Dr. Wily could take over the world. Because if you refuse the Nobel Prize,
you take over the world.
Yeah, that's your backup plan.
I feel like snubbed Nobel Prize winner, if nothing, is the most prime candidate for evil supervillainy. I can't think of anything
in the Bond universe. In the real world, they just move on with their day.
I don't know. I'm just saying that if tomorrow a super scientist, super villain cropped up, I'd be like, he probably didn't win the Nobel Prize. That's the first thing I would think about him. I'd be like, he wanted to win it and his friend won it and he got upset. I do like that in the beginning, Mega Man is like running through town as like shit's going wrong.
Yeah.
And he runs into Dr. Light and he's like, turn me into a battle robot. And that's how he turns into Mega Man.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you got to do. Like, you just got to ask him.
That's all it took is he just runs, oh, hey, Dr. Light, turn me into a battle robot. Is somebody says battle robot? It's something like that.
Or fighting robot.
Yeah, turn me into a fighting robot. And then it's just like, pling, pling, pling. And there you go, fighting robot, done.
See, if Mega Man had been a human instead of a robot, that same scene would have been a 10-year-old finding his uncle and being like, give me a gun.
Yep.
And that would have been the entire sequence.
Do you still have your service revolver? I'm going to take matters into my own hands.
Anytime I play this ever again, I'm going to refer to the Mega Buster as the service revolver.
It's a lot darker when they're not robots.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that's
it. You raised me. Now it's time to kill.
Let me take your vengeance. But no, that's pretty much the story of Mega Man.
Now I kind of do wish they had like a super dark Proto-Min style Mega Man story with this voice cast and this art style. You know, it
would only work with this visual and voice cast. Otherwise, it would be too dark. It would come across as grimdark in that scenario.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Is Mega Man it's like, I'm gonna go do a murder. And then he shows up and Electman's like, hey, it's Mega Man, and he shoots him in the gut and he bleeds out. You know, standard.
And then Mega Man leans down, takes his gun, and leaves. Yeah, that's the story of Mega Man.
Tell me, I would like it so much more. Tell me about the gameplay of Powered Up, because I'm going to be honest. Even this time around, I was not enthralled with Powered Up, and I did not play a ton of it. I just
that's unfortunate.
I just find it. I don't want to say boring, because that sounds mean, and it's not that it's boring. I think it's just. It's a pretty simple game.
Yeah, it's a very simplistic, very primitive take on Mega Man. And honestly, the complaints that you are having right now are the same complaints I have with Mega Man 9 and 10.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from.
So it's this thing where it's not that it's bad or anything. It's just not doing a lot for me.
Right.
You know, and I think it's a good remake of Mega Man 1, which is what it is, but it doesn't add anything.
Well, it adds a lot, actually.
Well,
and we'll get into that in a minute. And we'll get into what it adds in a minute.
Yeah, but the actual moment to moment is
pretty similar,
relatively the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So it is, as we've mentioned, ostensibly just a remake of the original 1987 Mega Man game, with modernized graphics and sound. And in some tweaks to the gameplay, but like you mentioned, a lot of it is still the same. So it's still your standard 2D platform. Mega Man has his same basic abilities. He did not gain any of the abilities that he would have had.
Revolver, and he can jump.
Exactly. But because it is a remake of that first game, you don't have the abilities he got in the later games. You don't have the slide. You don't have a charge cannon. You don't have rush. So his moveset is pretty simple until you get weapons from the other Robot Masters. And even then, it remains pretty simple unless you use some of the new features, which we'll get to in a minute. Like in the original game, and unlike any other Mega Man game, you can pick up score pellets from enemies that will be tallied to your score at the end of the stage. Which they retained for some reason. If there was anything to be cut from the original Mega Man, I would have thought.
Odd thing to keep,
right? But it did add online scoreboards so that you could compete against your friends. which, everybody competes in Mega Man 1 scores with their friends. That's
constantly
a normal thing to do.
Constantly needing to know how many other people murdered Robot Masters with a service revolver more quickly than I did.
And not just more quickly, but picked up more pellets along the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's important.
They got to mix in some Pac-Man. That was big at the time, so you got... Kids love pellets.
Yeah, it's a big thing. So, like the original, you do have the choice of which Robot Master to choose first, and defeating a Robot Master gains a Mega Man their weapon, and each Robot Master has a weakness to the weapon of one of the other Robot Masters, so the choice in level order can affect the difficulty in the game, just because which robots you choose in which order will determine how easy the other Robot Masters will be. And then after you defeat them all, you get to go to the Dr. Wily stages, which for anybody who has played any Mega Man game, everything I just said sounds incredibly primitive.
Nothing should be shocking here.
But this is, the first Mega Man game.
Right. Well, then let's jump into the differences.
Yes, because there's quite a few. So you've got an old style and a new style. If you play the game in old style, you still have the same level layout of the original game, including the same aspect ratio. Of the original game. You have the original music from the original game, but you have the new style graphics and sound effects. It also retains some of the quality of life improvements, like being able to change weapons with the L and R buttons, rather than going into a submenu.
Now, doesn't playing in because I only played in the new style, doesn't playing in the old style with the big giant Mega Man's giant hitbox head make it kind of weird?
No, because it's zoomed out more.
Okay, so they compensate.
Yeah, so it still feels like the original Mega Man game, really.
Yeah.
However, it does have, again, some of the other quality of life improvements, which I'll mention here in a minute. So it is tweaked a bit. It's not vanilla Mega Man.
Right.
But it is closer to the vanilla Mega Man experience with some quality of life improvements.
Which is good, because vanilla Mega Man 1 has not aged great.
Oh, man. It is the roughest one to go back to.
Definitely.
But then you have the new style, which tweaks all the level layouts to take advantage of a widescreen display, adds storylines, adds remixed music. You can also choose a difficulty level for each stage. And it also adds the ability where if you defeat a Robot Master with your Mega Buster rather than the weapon that they are weak against or any other weapon, the Robot Master will survive and can be brought to their senses by Dr. Light. And that allows you to choose a playable character for any future stages. And if you do that with all of the Robot Masters, you can play as all 8 other Robot Masters in addition to Mega Man. And they all have both the weapon that you would have gained from them, but also other abilities that Mega Man can't get that unlocks certain alternate paths in the various levels, which sometimes leads to one-ups or to stage builder elements, which I'll get to in a minute. And if you do go back to one of their levels after you've saved them, instead of fighting them again, you fight an evil Mega Man clone, which is adorable.
Yeah, it's just super cute. He's got like this little Proto Man style scarf, but it's purple. He's like, it's me, evil Mega Man.
It's great. Also, a new intro level was added to the game that lets you familiarize yourself with gameplay mechanics and gameplay style, which we first saw that in Mega Man X. And several of the classic series of Mega Man games have also had intro levels since then. So that's not anything new to the series, but it is new to Mega Man 1. A lot of the bosses were given new abilities and attack patterns. Several of them hit kind of an enrage mode when you get to halfway through their health, and they'll gain an additional attack, which was not in the original game, and is harder to dodge, or it might give them a few invincibility frames with their attack so that you can't cheese through them like you could in the original. So for people who are coming from the original, it might be a little more difficult.
Yeah, which I feel like some later Mega Man games have had bosses where the attack patterns change as you go through their health. So it's neat that they took that newer feature and ported it back.
Exactly. And then there are 2 new bosses. You have Time Man and Oil Man. Time Man, who has time manipulation abilities, which is not new to the franchise at all. Unlike the later time-based bosses like Flash Man or Bright Man, Time Man only slows down time instead of freezing it. So it is a slightly different ability, but it's still just time manipulation. So it kind of feels like they cheaped that one out. And then you have Oil Man, who gives you the oil slider, which is just a blob of oil that you like plop on the ground in front of you. But if it just falls on the ground instead of hitting an enemy, you can then jump on it and use it like a snowboard, which is weird.
That's what I need to go much faster through these levels.
Right. Also, just an odd thing, Oil Man isn't an original creation for this game. He was in the DOS Mega Man games that Capcom has disavowed and has nothing to do with.
Oh, so they acknowledged them.
He looks nothing like that Oil Man, and Capcom has claimed it has nothing to do with that, and that they weren't aware of it.
Whatever, Capcom. But, Oil Man? Yeah. Really? You just like through osmosis were like, oh, Oil Man. That's
just happened on the same name as from DOS Mega Man 3.
Goodness. All right. Whatever, Capcom.
Yep. So there's new Oil Man versus DOS Oil Man. But yeah, because they do have these new Robot Masters, they had to change the weakness order to include them. So for people who are familiar with the pattern of how to beat the bosses in the original, like myself, you will be completely taken off guard because different bosses are weak against different things, and you will inevitably do things out of order and fuck yourself.
And for someone like me who doesn't even remember the boss orders for his most favorite Mega Man games ever made, you won't even notice. You'll be like, oh, okay.
Right, yeah.
Is that what it is? Sure.
If you're not the kind of person that obsessively memorizes old NES game boss facts, then you probably won't care. But for people like me, it totally fucked me up.
Yeah,
when I came back to it. But there are a lot of minor tweaks. The most notable for me is that you can land on spikes during your invincibility frames and not die. Mm-hmm. Because that was the most infuriating part of the original Mega Man to me, was there are these platforms that you have to jump over spikes, and there are flying enemies that will try to knock you off the platforms. And if you land on spikes while you're invulnerable, you still instantly die in the original. That is no longer the case. You have a chance to save yourself now.
I also like that easy mode adds extensions to difficult jumps and platforms, which is really for a game that is so... Because I feel like, NES style Mega Man games, or at least maybe earlier NES style Mega Man games, are as much platforming as they are shooting stuff.
Yes, definitely.
And that gets a little fuzzy as you get into later Mega Man games, and especially the X series, which is kind of more about blowing shit up and less action. About just pure platforming. I feel like that's a great way to adjust the difficulty in a game like this, what I don't like is when you play on easy mode, you know what blocks have been added.
Yes.
Because they have little plus symbols on them.
Right.
And they're white. So as you're playing, you're like, all right, I guess I'll use the baby block for babies. I don't know why that bothered me.
Now, I didn't play this one in easy mode anytime recently, like maybe 10 years ago I did. So I don't remember, but one of the Mega Man games that introduced an easy mode made it to where if you landed on spikes, instead of dying, it would only take away half of your health.
Oh, wow.
And I can't remember if this is the one that did that or not, or if maybe it was Mega Man 10 or...
I don't think I had any spike deaths in my playthrough that I remember.
And maybe I'm just completely...
Because on easy mode, they really cover up most of the fuck you spike pits that they stick in there at the bottom of ladders. Why?
And don't they make the platform areas in Gutsman stage easier as well in easy mode on this?
I think so.
Because
I can't really remember now.
On normal mode, it's nearly identical to the NES, where you're just on that stupid fucking platform over a bottomless pit, and you have to jump between those moving platforms over and over. And it's a pain in the ass, but it's doable, I guess.
They also set it up so that some of these sections with the disappearing blocks, you can just totally go around them with the easy mode blocks.
Right.
Which, it kind of, whenever it's just literally you not playing the game because you're like, I'm not going to do that, it kind of, defeats a little bit of the whole
Instead of making it easier, it makes it feels like it's taking away the experience.
Yeah, it's like when Super Mario 3D Land was like, what if we just made you invincible? Right. Like, well, there's no point then. Why don't you just give me some power-ups or a star or something? And they're like, nope, invincible.
Was it New Super Mario Brothers U that was like, well, if you die enough times, what if you just watch Luigi play it instead?
I don't know which Mario game did that, but I know one of the Donkey Kong Country remakes.
Oh yeah, it might have been
not remakes.
the
new
Donkey Kong Country Return games.
Returns.
Yeah.
It was like, what if you just watch somebody else that doesn't suck play it?
Yeah, that was like, the most infuriating.
It's basically the game being like, you're terrible. Please let me do this because I can't even bear to watch you. And you're like, okay, fine.
But yeah, I do appreciate that it still has the option of an easy mode. But
definitely. And I found a lot of the times I found myself skipping the easy mode blocks and doing the challenges just because I was like, I think I could do that.
Yeah.
You know, so it was nice to have the option to like, you can still do the jumps if you want. And yeah, and there were a few times where I was like, no, I'm going to skip the easy mode block and see if I could have made it on normal.
And there's also a hard mode, which I haven't even bothered with.
I've not.
I don't know. Maybe they just take away all the platforms and it's just all spikes now?
They make the spikes twice as tall, is what it is. They're really tall spikes.
But among other changes, also Mega Man's rate of fire is faster and more bullets can be on the screen at once, which is really nice.
It felt dreadfully slow.
Really?
In regular Mega Man 1. No.
Oh, yeah, in the original
Mega Man 1.
Yeah.
Not in this one. This one feels good.
Yeah, it's much faster. Also, it's got the quick change of weapons. You can just use the L and R buttons, change weapons. And it added the thing that I want to say was X4 was the first game that did it, where it actually shows you the quantity of shots you have left in the weapon. Not just like a weapon gauge, but a number. It's like, this gauge represents 8 more shots of this weapon. You can shoot 8 times, which is always nice.
I did also notice, and I don't know if this is just me misremembering Mega Man 1, because it's definitely my least played NES Mega Man. But I noticed those little enemies that scoot back and forth on the ground, and when you stand on the same platform as them, they shoot at you real fast.
Yeah.
I noticed what I thought were those in this game, but on easy mode, they didn't come after you. They just kept on trucking.
Well, I'm trying to think of which enemy you're talking about.
It's the little guy. God damn it. It's like this little disc on the ground, moves back and forth, but then when you're on the platform with it, it goes real fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it, at least on normal mode, because I was playing on normal, it does still accelerate, but nowhere near to the speed that it does on NES.
On easy mode, they did not accelerate because I jump on there and then jump off real fast, waiting on them to like fly over at me.
Yeah.
So with that said, I assume other enemy attack patterns are altered for difficulty as well. I just couldn't recognize them because I'm not familiar enough with the game to know.
And also a lot of the attack patterns for the enemies and enemy behaviors in general have been changed outright from the original.
Yeah.
So there are some changes. Also, one negative, the magnet beam was removed, just gone.
Weird.
I don't know if it's still available in old style because I haven't played that far in old style to encounter it. But in new style, there is no magnet beam, so there's no cheap way to jump up to higher platforms. You have to use the special abilities of other Robot Masters to get to any higher platform.
Interesting.
Also, there's also some of the enemies run into walls now that used to just fly across the screen, like the flying penguin things in Iceman stage. Instead of them just flying right through platforms and gunning for you, they'll hit a wall and just blow up, which is nice. And also some of your shots won't go through walls that used to go through or platforms that they used to be able to go through. They get stopped by platforms, so you can't shoot at enemies that are on the other side of platforms. But also, they can't shoot at you. So,
which, I think all of these things speak to them not just making the design a little bit easier and more quality of life, but also improving things that were kind of broken or unintentional in the original game.
Right.
Which is nice to see.
Or if they were intentional in the original game, it was a decision that the new development staff
no.
Yeah, they played the game and decided as a player, I don't like this. Let's change this. So, and I appreciate that as well. Even if it's not the original design staff, I like to see what someone else would bring to the table.
Yeah.
However, speaking of changes that shouldn't have been made, the 1-up head has been replaced with a 1-up heart, and I'm not okay with that. You don't do that. And they made the checkpoints visible, which is great. I always appreciate when a game makes its checkpoints visible. But when you reach them, it gives you a little flag with the old 1-up head on it. So now you're just rubbing it in. Like, the 1-up head was there.
It was confusing that they're like, what is that? Why does a head give me a life? That makes it, maybe they, I don't know.
How dare they? Just how fucking dare they? But no, the most notable change in the game is the level creator. So you can make your own Mega Man levels And at one point, you could upload them to PSN so that they could be downloaded by other players. That's no longer an option. I still have like 100 on my memory card from back in the day that I downloaded, but you can't download them anymore. And in order in order to build the levels, you pick up construction packs throughout levels that will gain you level components or backgrounds or music or enemies that you can place in the levels. You find them throughout the new style levels. A lot of them require that you replay levels as one of the other robot masters in order to get it. So it can require you to replay the same level 3 or 4 times in order to get them all, which is a little frustrating, but it does give you something extra to do with the game, and I thought it was a really neat component.
It gives some replayability, which is basically what the armor upgrades in the X series did, where you now have to go back through the level to get the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
There's an actual reason to go back to the level, which is it's always nice.
And then you get to see evil Mega Man when you get there.
There you go. Perfect.
But no, I do really appreciate the level editor, and some of the levels that people had made and uploaded to PSN back in the day were really neat and clever. A lot of people just remade levels from other Mega Man games, which was also neat. But several people made some really interesting and original challenges. I hope someone on the internet has preserved a bunch of them because they absolutely deserve to be preserved.
Yeah, my friend Saturn did. He's got hundreds of them on his
I'll just copy them over for you. But no, this was years before we had Mario Maker, and there was already a Mega Man Maker out there, and I feel like it didn't get the attention that it should have.
I feel like nobody talked about the stage creator in this game because this was like people liked this.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I mean, I do know how well it sold. It didn't sell very well, but it was pretty well received, which we'll get into in a minute. And I feel like no one really was like championing Mega Man Maker levels,
which they should have been because it was such a clever and neat feature. I filled up my memory card several times with them back in the day. To the point to where I was constantly having to delete levels from my little 512 meg memory card.
God, downloading things on PSN was such a pain in the ass on the PSP. Well, it still is on the PS4, but even then, it was.
Yeah, it especially was then because back then you had to do it through the game.
Yeah, it was rough. Let's talk release and reception. Though announced for a digital release on PSN alongside other UMD-based games, when that option became available, Capcom and Sony claimed technical difficulties releasing the game digitally outside of Japan that could never be overcome.
It's weird.
Ever.
Yeah, they never released it digitally outside of Japan and claimed that there was some technical difficulty that prevented it that they just couldn't figure out.
It's funny because I have a pirated copy.
It works fine on my
PSP. Works great. Yeah,
I ripped my disc on there. It works fine. I don't know what.
Maybe Sony didn't have the technology to rip discs. They don't know a lot of disc technology.
They haven't discovered the ISO file yet. Maybe it was that by then the level editor functionality had already died and they wanted to remove it and couldn't or something like that. I don't know.
The game was received well, sold poorly at retail in Japan, which is usually a killer for Japanese developed games.
Yeah.
82% aggregate on Metacritic. 1UP gave it an A-. GameSpot gave it an 8.5 out of 10. GameSpy 5 out of 5. Yeah. And Famitsu a 29 out of 40,
which is still pretty good for them. It's okay. Not great, but it's very good.
Jeremy Parrish, writing for 1UP.com, called it, quote, one of the most addictive PSP games to date. A statement I would disagree with, but I think you would wholeheartedly agree with.
Yeah, I played a ton of it. Yeah.
Overseas sales were better than in Japan, but still below expectations. It was nominated for Best Action Game at the 2006 1UP Awards. By the way, in this era, 1UP.com was massive in the games media space.
Yeah,
for people that are like, what the fuck is 1UP?
Yeah, this was back when 1UP was still owned by Ziff Davis and was the de facto website for EGM and all the related magazines.
This was basically just like you had your shitty gaming news, and then you had 1UP. Like,
right, pretty much.
That was it.
You don't have to say your shitty gaming news. You can just call them IGN.
All right, fine. You had IGN and you had 1UP. Ranked by GameSpy as the 7th best handheld game of 2006, 5th best PSP game. IGN ranked it the 9th best PSP game of all time.
And it's still sold for shit.
Yeah, unfortunately, did not sell well. As far as legacy, Inafune discussed a Powered Up 2, but it never happened because the sales weren't there. And possibly due to the poor sales of Powered Up, the next new Mega Man game, Mega Man 9, went back to the NES-style visuals and gameplay. Classic Mega Man would not see a new game with modern graphics until 2018's Mega Man 11, and we've not seen anything since then other than compilations.
Yeah, and even then, the compilations were before that, weren't they? Oh, I guess there were some spin-off compilations.
Yeah, you had the I feel like the Zero ZX collection came out after 2018.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird thing where Powered Up seems like it kind of killed Mega Man for a little while there.
Yeah, and there was discussion at the time, heavy discussion on gaming websites at the time of if this had come out on DS instead of PSP, would it have been a success?
Yeah.
And I feel like it would have been.
I most definitely feel like it would have been, especially using the touchscreen with the level editor.
Yeah.
Would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have done a lot better. I feel like if they remastered this on 3DS and added spot pass levels, that would have been huge.
Now, the difference was DS didn't have something like PSN to share levels on. You would have had to been next to somebody to trade levels.
True.
But I still think it would have done better on DS just because I feel like there was more market. There was more of a market of people who would have wanted a chibi Mega Man 1 remake on DS than there was on PSP.
Definitely. The PSP at the time felt more like, it felt more like this is what the older gamers play. This is what we enjoy. It also came out pretty early, along with what I'm going to call its sister game, Maverick Hunter X, in the PSP's lifespan. And it was kind of before we were accustomed to these sort of like 3D, 2.5D retro remakes, which kind of became a PSP staple by the end of the system's lifespan.
Yeah. And also, I feel like this might have been ahead of the curve where they picked a platform with older players to target a retro re-release, which today would do great with older players.
Right.
But I feel like they were a little ahead of that, that the older crowd was still looking for your ultra violent, your heavy action games at that point. They weren't looking for Mega Man in SD graphics.
And I also wonder, because this was in the era when Resident Evil was kind of in the shitter.
That's true.
Street Fighter 4 was
well, we say it was in the shitter. It was also selling better than it ever has before or since.
That's true. It was in the critical shitter.
Yeah,
it's a separate shitter. There's two shitters, right? You got the sales shitter and the critical shitter. It was in the critical shitter.
I gotta go take a critical shitter.
And Street Fighter 4 was feeling a little long in the tooth by this time, 2006. At this time, we were on like Ultra Street Fighter 4 Mega Turbo Arcade Edition 2 or whatever it was.
I think we were still on vanilla Street Fighter 4 at this point in 2006.
Was it still vanilla? I'm just trying to contextualize Capcom and why Powered Up went down the way it did.
Because if I remember right, this is around Resident Evil 5 and around... This actually might be a little before Street Fighter 4.
Really?
If I remember right.
When did Street Fighter 4 come out?
I wanted to say it was 07 or...
I don't know why I thought it was so much earlier. I'm just going to Google it right now.
I mean, if you think about it, it was on PS3, and the PS3 came out in 06.
That's true. Street Fighter 4 is 2008. This is 2 years before Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
So Street Fighter is...
in its dark period.
It's in the shitter at this point. Street Fighter's in the shitter. Resident Evil 5, I know, sold well. Nowhere near Resident Evil 6. Didn't Resident Evil 6 sell, amazing?
Resident Evil 5 was the greatest selling game in the series for a while until Resident Evil 6. Okay. And then Resident Evil 6 outsold it. So
I don't know. Capcom's kind of in a weird place here.
At this point, Capcom was writing Dead Rising. And,
that was their big thing in this era.
And Devil May Cry 4.
Yeah. Which even, I feel like by the time we were reaching this level of Devil May Cry, even that people were kind of stopping paying attention to it. It didn't feel as big. Everything after Devil May Cry 3 hasn't felt as big as the first 3.
And even then, I would say 3 didn't feel as big as the first 2. It was a bigger game, but I don't think it had the impact of the first 2 did.
I feel like this is around the era when Monster Hunter started
in Japan,
traction.
This is definitely when Monster Hunter was getting traction.
Yeah, Monster Hunter on PSP was massive. It started getting some attention over here. Really, I think Try on the Wii was when that happened. But Try on the Wii was pretty big for Capcom. So Capcom,
this was several years before that.
Was it before Try?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. So we're in 2006. So we're early Wii.
Yeah, we're before Wii, actually, because this is March 06. The Wii didn't launch till November of 06.
I guess
we're
Monster
still in the
Hunter
GameCube
was
era
dominating in
point.
Japan. Street Fighter was in the shitter, and Resident Evil was critically in the shitter, but selling well.
Yeah, I don't even know if 5 had come out yet. I want to say 5 was 2007, so they might have still been writing Resident Evil 4 on PS2 at this point.
It kind of makes me wonder if Powered Up was them just sort of being like, hey, we don't got a lot of irons and a lot of fires right now.
Right.
Let's try something different. Rather than them going, all right, it's time to revive Mega Man. This is our new big friend. It kind of makes me wonder if they sort of had it doomed from the start.
Yeah, I mean,
where
Mega Man
this is our stopgap project.
Right.
Let's see where it gets us, and then hey, this other shit's catching on. Street Fighter 4 is big, here in whenever it comes out in a couple years.
Right.
Okay, cool. We don't need that.
And also, Mega Man had kind of been in retirement for a little while at this point. We hadn't seen a standard Mega Man game since the PS1. So it had been almost 10 years, maybe more than 10 years since we had seen, not quite 10 years, between Mega Man 8 and Mega Man Powered Up. Mega Man X had also kind of quietly wound down after the PS2 games.
Yeah, I don't know about quietly. Those last couple games were pretty catastrophically loud.
Okay, so they tripped on a bunch of orchestra equipment on their way out the door, but they were trying to quietly wind down.
It seemed like they were, I agree. It seems like they were sunsetting some stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems like...
I feel like this was like a chance to give Mega Man a time to return. Like, can we make this a handheld exclusive franchise now? And they decided to target the PSP instead of the DS, which, granted, this is early enough that they might not have known what the PSP's demographic would have been. So I just feel like it was...
Well, also, again, I don't know when Monster Hunter on the PSP came out, but Monster Hunter on PSP in Japan was massive, so maybe they were targeting it for other reasons. I mean, Capcom had a lot of PSP stuff.
Oh, definitely.
A lot.
Yeah.
They were big invested on the PSP and not so much on DS.
Yeah, I mean, they had some DS stuff, but...
Yeah, for sure, but...
They were definitely focusing PSP for quite a while there.
So I don't know. I agree that it seems like they kind of wanted to do this, like, hey, let's see what we can turn Mega Man into now. And then it didn't make as much money as Resident Evil 5 and Street Fighter a little bit later, and Monster Hunter a little bit later than that. And
or Dead Rising, for that matter. Dead Rising did really well on the Xbox.
And I feel like they were kind of, being like, well, we have these AAA franchises that I don't think we need. I think my point is... that I wonder if they had AAA level expectations for Powered Up that were never realistic.
Man, I hope
obviously I don't want to put that on them, but I wonder that, because I could see someone in a boardroom going, okay, we spent how much money on this thing? Okay, and did it sell as much as Resident Evil 5? Okay, so why are we doing that thing? You know?
And this is also definitely when Japan had fully embraced handhelds. This was the transition has happened. Japan is no longer focused on consoles. So to see a premier franchise like Mega Man do so poorly on a handheld in Japan at this time probably was not encouraging.
Yeah. Anyway, as far as final thoughts, I feel like it didn't do enough with the Mega Man 1 formula to invest someone like me who prefers the more complex and feature-rich Mega Man games. It still feels a little. I don't want to be derogatory because it's good. But it's kind of simple in a nice way. You know what I mean?
I want to hold off on my final thoughts until next episode, just so I can. Because spoiler alert, we're going to be covering Mega Man X, the PSP remake.
Yes, which realistically, I believe that one came out before this one.
It did. But shortly before this.
Chronologically, we're doing it backwards.
Yeah, we fucked that up.
But here we are.
I think that my opinion of one definitely influences the other, so I want to cover them both at once. As far as
I'll have a final wrap up on next episode too, but I do think Powered Up is good. I don't think it did enough to pull anyone in if you didn't already kind of like Mega Man 1. Just wish it wasn't kind of shitty.
That's fair. One thing I will say is I think that of the two, and I'm kind of giving a preview of my thoughts of Maverick Hunter, is that Mega Man 1 needed a remake way more than Mega Man X did.
I would agree with that for sure.
And because of that, I feel like this is a functionally more necessary game than Mega Man
I don't
X.
think I disagree with that at all.
So if
not at all.
If you're looking for a way to play Mega Man X, you have options. If you are looking for a way to play Mega Man 1, I would steer you towards this.
Yeah, I would steer you towards this and basically nothing else.
The only other version I would possibly recommend is the PS1 version, which did not come out outside of Japan.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to the show.
Yes.
We have a Patreon that you can go to at patreon.com/retrowarriors.
I don't know how to handle this because you didn't say, well, anyway, that's all of Mega Man Powered Up.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all of Mega Man Powered Up. But you know what? It's not all of our wonderful patrons at patreon.com/retrowarriors, where you can get Talking Wizards, our uncut episodes of the show a couple weeks early. We've got after hours. We got lots of cool stuff there for you. It would mean a lot to us if you would consider supporting the show there, or just rating and reviewing us on whatever you got. If you're on an iPhone, then do it in iTunes. It helps us a lot. If you're on a not iPhone, then whatever that is doing, whatever podcast
that
program
is
you
doing.
have there. There's because there's not. I mean, there's Google Podcasts,
That's
but
true.
it's like the shittiest possible effort to have a
Sadly
podcast
is, yeah.
app. So if you're on Android, chances are there's no telling what podcast app
Right.
you use. But if it has options for rating and reviewing us, please do it. I think like Spotify and stuff does. It helps the show a lot. We also have links in the show description for our Redbubble and for our Discord if you want to come hang out with us and talk to us or buy a sticker or whatever. It'd be wonderful. Right. And we do want to thank the following patrons for making this show possible, starting with Alex
and Dean Schmidt,
Gary Heather,
Lee Sparks,
Retro Gamer Randomness,
Retronauts does adventure game episodes. That's true.
Just because Retronauts does it doesn't mean we have to do it.
Hey, we did Metroid. That's an adventure game.
Saturn, that's a search action game.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Sponsored by Honest Bob's Dildo and Butt Plug Emporium.
The Techno Funk Boy.
What is a name? A miserable little pile of letters?
And Zaventorian
are all the wonderful patrons we want to thank this week.
Hey, you know who is also a patron at our Patreon? Our producer Guy.
He is, and he's going to be here after the ending theme because we put him all the way after the end theme after everything. So please stay tuned.
We want to isolate Guy discussion.
Yeah, he's got his own special isolated little padded room portion of the show.
We're gonna go enter the Guy bubble after this.
Yeah. Anyway, if you had a 90s TV show, it'd be called Enter the Guy Bubble. Anyway, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always,
let us cling together.
The guy Enter the Guy Bubble with our producer Guy. Hi, Guy.
Hi,
I said your name a lot.
Guy, I would like to apologize for the bubble comment. I did not intend for that to be a thing.
Not going anywhere.
That's all right, man. I've been insulted by people all day. Fucking, I was listening to Talking Wizards earlier today.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah.
I swear, hold on. I swear that we don't mean to insult you on Talking Wizards. And I feel like every episode you're like, hey, you know what you said about wrestling? Or like, hey, you know what you said about people with glasses or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm catching up. Like I'm way behind on podcasts, but started driving more recently. So catching up. Right. So I'm listening to one from like December called like, I Want to Be a Jedi or something.
Oh yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah. Do you? Cause it's the one where Andrew told you about getting into skateboarding.
Yeah, I remember that episode very vividly.
Yeah, he was talking about how he got an acoustic guitar, which he then started looking for an electric guitar and decided that no, he's not going to do that until he learns how to play.
Acoustic guitar, yeah.
Yeah. Which then that convinced him, because he did that convinced him, hey, maybe I can stick with things. I'm going to start skateboarding.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Yes, I remember that.
And then you followed that up with, are you okay? Are you having some sort of crisis? You know, you're like, oh, I'm gonna dye my hair and learn how to play guitar. I'm like,
and name myself Guy and produce a podcast. Whoa,
right, jerk.
Hey, man.
See, Guy, you and I, we're older than Justin. He doesn't understand that we've already passed that phase in our life where all that's normal to us now.
Yeah, I don't understand that life is a crisis at your point, just in a general sense.
Right, yeah, I was telling this story to Kristen, and she goes, yeah, okay, you know what? Tell Justin to revisit this subject in 5 to 10 years.
Right.
No, I can promise you that I will have a crisis, and it will be so much stupider and more useless than dyeing my hair and playing guitar. I promise you that.
Like you'll buy the entire He-Man line or something.
Shut up, Saturn.
Oh, man, did you see the preview for the new He-Man show?
Yeah.
I am pretty stoked on that. It looks pretty cool.
It does.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Mark Hamill sounds really cool as Skeletor. That seems neat. I do like that they did like that weird CG on all the vehicles, so it looks like little tiny toy models.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It looks cool. My daughter watched it, and her verdict was, quote, He-Man looks beautiful. That's what she said.
She's not wrong. I mean, even Adam's kind of pretty.
He's a very beautiful man. So, no, I'm stoked on that. I'm excited. Also because I tried to get her to watch the She-Ra reboot, and it is not for 5-year-olds. It's too much like standing around talking character development stuff for a 5-year-old. Or for a dumb 32-year-old. So, because she loves She-Ra, and I was like, oh, there's a She-Ra TV show, and she's like, this is boring. They're just talking, and I'm like, yeah, but look at the character relationships. She's like, I don't care, and I'm like, I kind of don't either. Do you want to watch something else?
I'm sure when she gets into like 7 to 10-year-old range, she'll be into it.
When she's in that range, it's going to be right up her alley.
Yeah.
But for now, she prefers the Filmation He-Man to all other iterations of He-Man.
What about?
And I'm trying.
What about Filmation She-Ra?
She's watched some of that. For some reason, still prefers He-Man because Evil Lynn is her favorite.
Yeah, I did not care for She-Ra.
That sounds about right up your child's alley.
Yeah, she's real into Evil Lynn, and her favorite thing is to take our Evil Lynn toy and rip her torso off of her body and stick her head directly on her legs.
That's good. That's what she looks like on the show.
That's how she plays with Evil Lynn.
Well, I mean, she got the torso out the way. That's the evil part.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
Or she'll rip She-Ra's head off and stick Evil Lynn's head on and call her Battle Armor Evil Lynn. And then she kills everyone with Battle Armor Evil. And it occurred to me, it made me sad because she, there's that whole thing where it's like, well, these are girl toys and those are boy toys. And it made me sad because He-Man is a pretty, I don't want to call them boy toys, but it's a pretty boy-centric line.
It was seen as a boy toy back then, yeah.
Definitely